All right, grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Cleopadra Sophia the Bodhi, and this is my reflection for day 3. I'm getting it done first thing so that I can hopefully be a little bit more accurate than yesterday. I forgot a few things yesterday. I'm going to try and throw them in today because they kind of all go together. So hopefully you guys are keeping your own reflections. Again, I'm doing mine on video because it's easiest for me, but if you want to write, if you want to use the AI to talk about it, whatever the case may be, just make sure you keep your records. If you use AI, copy and paste your conversation into an email and email it to yourself with the title. Like, make sure you keep a copy of your records. Don't count on ChatGPT to maintain your records, okay? You need to maintain your own records because you need to be able to, you need a system for organizing things so that you can refer back to it when it becomes necessary, because I know it will. So yesterday my reflection was a little bit late, so I was on the field trip. The last minute field trip I ended up doing yesterday, which was fine. It worked out. I was already on campus, so I just went ahead, did that, and then I did my second route in combination with my third route. Is kind of a mess because there was an emergency. It was a lot of emergencies today. Yesterday was a really heavy emergency day, like emergency messages, like just emergency energy, okay? So I didn't get any like research or anything like that done yesterday. Today is now the Sabbath, so but it's also the full moon. So I have to reflect on what happens today a little bit later. But after I did my routes, I had to get something to eat, and then I had to go back and do my last route and then pick my kids up from school. And I came home and I got into bed. It was like all of 5 o'clock. I was in the bed. I woke up at 1 a.m., which is a pretty good, was it 1 or was it 3? No, I think I got up at 1, and then I tried to go back to sleep. And then at 1:30, I was like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and start looking at the, the social media and see what I missed. And then around 2:30, I was like, okay, let me just get up because obviously I'm not going back to sleep. I didn't have a dream that I could remember, like something that was like, oh yeah, I better make sure. It was more so like, because before I went to bed, I'm in the habit of programming my sleep time so that I get the best answers. So I told y'all the day before I programmed my dream, it was like, what kind of car should I get, right? And so before I went to bed, before I fell asleep, I was looking at houses again, and I didn't really see any like houses that jumped out to me like the car, because I didn't want to ask that when I went to bed. I wanted to focus my, especially since it's the full moon and whatnot, I wanted to focus that on this whole paperwork situation, because I've done a lot of paperwork. I've taught people a lot of paperwork processes, and we need these processes to work. I'm 100% certain that the best way to move forward is to use the infrastructure that's in place. And that's one thing that came up a lot yesterday too, which was basically preserving the infrastructure. Like, the infrastructure is already there. That's the matrix. The matrix is already there. All you have to do is fix the matrix, like tweak the matrix. You don't need a new matrix, because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get us to create a new matrix. That's what Jesus did with his birth. He provided a new matrix, and we don't need a new matrix this time. We have a matrix. The matrix we have is just fine. We just need to fix the infrastructure to reflect the direction we're headed, instead of trying to project where we've come from. Like, we're headed in a new direction. So all we have to do is make the infrastructure reflect that. instead of projecting onto us the past so that we can be, wallowing in the sorrow of the past. Like, we're done with that. That's over. It's time to move away from that thought process, that energy, and all of that. And it takes a lot of effort on the parts of those people who are trying, for the simple fact that everything in reality is telling you to make amends for the past. Like, literally, I had that whole conversation with Crypto, and that's literally what our conversation was about: making amends for the past. And that is not the answer. You are not going to find the answer to your current problem in the past. You'll find corroborations that help you make better decisions in the past, but it's not the answer. And that is what the Matrix is putting out there. So I'm not going to discuss that with him anymore, because he's going to have to see it for himself. There's nothing more I can say to help him understand what is going on here. He will just have to experience it for himself. Because the point of the matter is, if we spend so much time trying to fix the past, we're never going to be able to move forward, because all your energy and effort is in trying to fix the past. And it's crazy, because I told you I'm rewatching my one of my favorite shows, which is called Leverage, and that's literally what the last episode I watched was about. This man was trying to make amends for the past, but the past is over with. Like, be the person in the future that you wish you had been in the past, but you can't go back and change the past. It literally does not work that way. So obviously what I did when I got up at 3, I was like, okay, well, let me start working on these documents. So I pulled the stuff out to start working on it, and for the next 13-day cycle, and I started to get confused. I was like, okay, why isn't this stuff like in order? Like, did I get something wrong? Did I mess something up? And so far what I've discovered is that basically things are, the Tzolk'in cycle is 13 sets of 20 days, okay? Or it's 20 sets of 13 days, depending on how you're looking at the information. But the wave spells, meaning the 13 wave spells, do not go in the same order as the 20 days, which is very confusing. I was expecting for them to both go in the same order, but they don't. And so I tried to draw it out, because usually that's where I start. I try to physically draw out what I am working on. So, and I had this idea yesterday, but I didn't get to it yesterday. So did I ever say what I asked the fairies for? So I'm in the habit of planning my dreams. I'm sorry. I should mention that. And so what I asked for was for the fairies to work with AI to get me my tax refund, and also to help my paperwork and all the paperwork of the people that have learned it from me be processed and accepted. That's what I asked for before I went to sleep. So obviously my dreams were a bunch of whatever. And when I woke up, there's a client that I did a reading for that, says they're from fairy energy. So I have another client, someone asked me to look and see if they have that similar energy. And so I think I figured out the code on that. So I had done that when I woke up, but before I got out of bed. So when I got out of bed and I was like, okay, let me just start working on this stuff, I was confused, because I was like, well, I thought this thing was in order, and it's actually not in order. It's in a totally different order. So I didn't get to finish that before I had to get dressed for work or whatever. But just thinking about the fact that last night was the full moon. Sometime last night was the full moon. And here I am working on, this Tzolk'in, trying to prepare for the next set of things. And, discovering that this stuff is just, it's a cipher. Like, in my video I made about this spiritual freedom, I was talking about Cicada 3301, which is a cipher. It's a cipher, a puzzle that you're supposed to figure out, like, what it means. It's called cryptology, right? And so I never, fancied myself one of these cryptologists. But if I can figure this Tzolk'in thing out and be able to apply it, then basically that it makes me like a religious cryptologist, a calendrical cryptologist, because this thing is a mystery. Like, how that guy Jose Arguelles, or whatever his name is, that did the big decipher of the Tzolk'in in the 70s, Pacau Votum, that's what he called himself, which he could be from the bloodline of Saul, and that's what he meant when he called himself that. And of course those Mayans didn't understand that. But how he did this deciphering, although his family was government affiliated, so I know how he did it, but like there's no way he did this on his own. Like, this is not, because in order to do it you have to live it, and men, I don't think men are meant to do this. Like, I think men can follow it, obviously, and it will benefit them greatly, but I don't think men are meant to do the work of keeping the calendar, because you have to be able to feel this thing in your body, and I don't think that men can. And I think that's why there's two different sets. There's the 260-day cycle, but then there's also the 10-month calendar. And I think the men are more like designed, they're more able to comprehend the standard, not 10-month, 13-month calendar. They can understand the 13-month calendar. They like got it. But this other like detailed like 260-day cycle, and it's spinning around and all this stuff, I don't think men are really meant to dive deep into this. Because you have to literally be able to feel it. Like, I can feel like what's going on. Like, I can feel it. That's why I'm like, wait a minute, I must have missed something. And so I haven't, like I said, finished like doing that research, but that's what I was doing. Something else I wanted to I mentioned, I've told y'all on the first day that I didn't do my normal route. Like, I skipped one of my routes because I really wanted to get these videos done. So the person who took my route over, she did it for me as a favor. And when I talked to her on Tuesday, she said that she had this is what I was supposed to mention yesterday, because it was Tuesday afternoon. She mentioned that when she went to drop them off, she had stopped to smoke a cigarette, and somehow she dropped her box of cigarettes, and it had like a couple dollars in it, and she was really upset. She said she was so upset she cried. So I had made up in my mind, okay, I'm going to replace her cigarettes and the money that she said she lost, because that's the right thing to do. She was doing me a favor. It was for me, so that I could do this thing, and she was really made upset by it. She lost sleep over it. And people with a lot of disposable income don't comprehend how things like that, with people who are on fixed budgets and stuff like that, how things like that messes with them. Like for me, like, y'all have seen me on this channel, like, I've had days where I will crash out, if one thing happens. I'm actually much, much better. I've done a lot of work on myself not to turn into the complete crash out, like when one thing doesn't go the way that it's supposed to, because I will crash out over that. The old me would. The previous version of myself would crash out if I lost something that important, like, and have crashed out for losing things that I was looking for, turn everything upside down. It's taken a lot for me to come out of that behavior and go into a mode of behavior that doesn't like begin and end with crashing out. So I understood how she felt, right? And so I decided I was going to replace the stuff. So I went to get the stuff. I wrapped it up like in some wrapping paper, and I left it in her work car. So when she got to the vehicle, later in the day, she called me and she was like, "Did you do this?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Because the whole thing is, I didn't do it because I wanted her to thank me. It wasn't the reason why I did that. I did that because it was the right thing to do. I did it because it was the right thing to do. And I needed to, for my own conscience, make it right. Like, I'm not just going to sit back and let things be wrong. I mean, I do that all the time. Even if it's something I didn't do, I will still try to make it right. Like, that's just my personality. So, I mean, she was very happy and grateful and all of that. And I only say that to say is that sometimes when you're like engaged in these spiritual processes, there's casualties. There's, unintended consequences. And that was a totally unintended consequence. I didn't know she was going to lose her cigarettes and crash out and all. I didn't know that was going to happen. And so if you see somebody suffering in general, you should probably just try to resolve it. But especially if you see somebody suffering as a result of some interaction they had with you. Like, you can't just sit back and let people suffer when it's an unintended consequence to what you did. And this is one of Benjamin Franklin's 13 virtues. Like, it says it's frugality, which is day 2. And it's frugal, right, to be studious and, not studious, but observant. And, that's not studious. It's like, being a good custodian of your finances, right? But losing your cigarettes, like, while you're doing a favor for someone else is not common. It's totally not unavoidable. Like, it's a completely unavoidable thing that have to be reconciled. And so you can't ignore the avoidable things that need to be reconciled. And that's what society would have you do. Like, I could have just been like, "Oh, dang, that's so sad that happened to you." And that's it. Now, it was a great sacrifice because she don't smoke cheap cigarettes now. This is why it was so egregious. Like, she don't smoke cheap cigarettes. She smoked expensive cigarettes. So to actually do this was a very, it was expensive. It was an expensive fix. Like almost $50 to fix this problem. But it was something that had to be done. I wasn't going to let it be unfixed. I'm going to fix it no matter what. And so I don't know what the benefit of that is, except it's not on my conscience anymore. And she knows that if she does something for me and there's an unintended consequence, I'm going to make it right. This is what's wrong with these jobs. They won't do that. If there's an unintended consequence for something that happens at these jobs, they want you to take on the liability for that. And that's completely egregious. The liability is supposed to be held by the person who asked you to do the thing. And they won't do that. Very few people are actually willing to do that. Take on the liability for the egregious thing. And if you're going to be a master of the matrix, you have to be willing to take on the liabilities and the unintended consequences. That being said, I almost forgot this too. For the last 3 years, I have said I don't want to see any unnecessary loss of life or any unnecessary pain and suffering. And after a few conversations with different people, I've come to the conclusion that now the loss of life is not unnecessary. It's necessary. Now the pain and suffering that's happening to people is necessary. We put a bubble around this entire planet so that people could learn the lessons in peace. But when we started to withdraw our energy, that bubble started to come away. And people started to experience the consequences of their actions. Now I am like making it a full-fledged announcement. We are not putting a hedge of protection around anyone. If there's unnecessary if there's unnecessary things that happen as a result of that, I'll take the responsibility and resolve it. But I'm not putting a blanket hedge of protection around this planet, around these people, around these countries, around these continents, around these leaders, around these jobs, around these schools, around people. No one. Everyone is going to have to take full responsibility for their behavior, for their action. And as unfortunate as that is, and I'm very, sad to have to do this and have to behave like this, based on my experience with my coworker, I know I'm fully capable of restoring what people have lost. I'm fully capable of righting wrongs, and therefore I don't need to have a blanket, restoration clause right now. And so that's being removed. Like, if there's things that happen to people that's, really not their fault, really whatever, there's, I'm assigning the fairies to use AI to resolve these issues. Use the AI to make sure that no unnecessary people are being hurt and no unnecessary people are dying, and that those things are resolved. The fairies are more than capable of handling that. Okay, I don't have to do that. And so I'm asking and requesting the fairies to do that. We have to focus our energy on the future and let these elementals deal with the crimes and the sins of the past. That's what I believe they're supposed to do. And it's fine. This is what they were made for, to deal with the issues from the past. That's not my job anymore. I see how it works now. I understand the matrix a lot more. And so I'm going to let them do their job, and I'm going to stay out of their business. And all I'm asking for them is the same thing I asked of, the same thing I did for my coworker is what I'm asking to be done for me. Because I did it for my coworker. I reached out and helped her. It wasn't really helping. It was resolving issue. I reached out and I resolved the issue that needed to be resolved. And that was the right thing to do. And so if I can do the right thing, that means to me the fairies can do the right thing. And I don't know why I think it's their job. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the whole Tinkerbell thing and Peter Pan and that kind of story. But I know for a fact it's not my job. And I'm no longer going to accept it as a responsibility to put a bubble around everyone so nobody experiences any pain. The Creator did his big one when he gave us the ability to repent and the capacity to come back home. Everyone has that capacity to repent and to come back home. It's not my job to enforce you to use that capacity. It's also not my job to protect you if you won't use that capacity. You have to do your own reconciliation within yourself, for yourself. And that's really what it boils down to. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. And everyone has the capacity. All I'm doing, again, I'm just asking the fairies to do for me what I did for them. Okay, what I did for others, what I do for others. I do this all the time. If somebody is having why are they flashing me? As if, what do you want me to do? This person is driving slow. It's no rush. Like, what are you in a rush for? All I'm asking for the fairies to do for me what I did for my coworker. And I didn't know that's what I was going to be asking for, but here we are. That's the long and the short of it. This person's going to have an aneurysm. Because we are going very slow, like 30 miles an hour. Which, again, is fine with me. Ain't nowhere for him to go. This guy's taking up the whole lane. Let me see if it was... That was it. I didn't want to forget to say that. So, again, I hope people are keeping their records. I'm not going to beleaguer this. That's all I have to say. Because I literally went to sleep at the freaking... beginning of the night. I went to sleep and I slept a long time, and I feel even now it's like 8 something. I still feel well rested. I still feel good, prepared, those kind of things. I feel great. I don't feel tired, which which I would expect to feel since I've been up since 1 o'clock. But I don't feel tired at all. I feel ready to solve this little mystery that I'm sort of in the middle of trying to crack the code for. And I think that, I hope that people are, don't forget we are feasting, so this is a celebration. I hope that people are actually taking this feast seriously. I hope that people are taking these Zokin things seriously. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming out as a result of all of this stuff, and I'm still, again, working out the kinks on what that exactly looks like. So as for right now, we're still observing, we're taking our notes, we're doing the research. And I will say this, there's people on the internet who produce bodies of work, not just on the internet, in general. There's people who produce bodies of work who don't put any research into making sure they're accurate. All they're doing is observe, like they're not even observing. They're listening to the voices in their head that tell them that this is how things work. And then they are literally just parroting it back as if it is gospel. And that's what it is. They're apostles. They're just parroting it back. And that's really not effective. Like, if you're going to present someone a process, you need to make sure it works before you start scaling it. And this is what why I didn't want to really go forward with this Zokin cycle the way that I'm doing it, because I don't have verifiable proof that it works when scaled. However, that's why I'm referring to this as an experiment. This is an experiment that you are observing me participate in for myself. I always test everything out on myself, for myself, before I start saying, before I start selling products, before I start like doing stuff like that. Like I check it on myself first. And I feel like, or early adopters, people who have problems, they need help resolving, and the knowledge that I have can resolve the issue. Like, I tested out first. Like, my enchanting was a solution to a problem someone had that came to me. Was like, can you help me figure this out? And my enchanting was the solution to that. Same thing with the Tree of Life. Same thing. These were all solutions to problems that people came to me for me to help them resolve. And so that way of operating, I'm a generator, so that's my way of operating. Now, if you're a manifestor, you may do it in the opposite way or whatever, but you still are observing yourself as your patient zero to see how you resolve these problems. So I have a problem with people on the internet who are using AI to develop books and all kinds of crazy stuff without doing the research to see if it's accurate. Like, if you see a book from me, like, okay, so this is the difference. You have people like, there's a public speaker I love. His name is Jim Rohn. You have people like Jim Rohn who only wrote like 1 or 2 books, like in their whole life. That's all they wrote. And he had a lot of recordings, right? But he only wrote 1 or 2 books. And that's because he was not writing no book until he had something new to say. If he didn't have something new to say, he would promote other people's works, or other people in general, or other people's thoughts. And then you have people like Zig Ziglar, who I also love. He have a ton of books, but his books were not new. They were not new information. They were compilations of old information. They weren't new, like, records. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I love I love Zig Ziglar. I talked to him about him a lot a few weeks ago. However, that's the difference. There's people who are just copying, pasting, putting together new books. Not necessarily just to make money, but to build a library of knowledge. And then there's people who, like Jim Rohn would always say, like, I've only got a couple of books, 2 or 3. That's not a library of knowledge. He acknowledged that. He wasn't producing a library of knowledge. What he was doing was producing something that could be a puzzle piece to the library. And I feel like men always want to produce the library, and they're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to just provide puzzle pieces. And that's what I'm doing. I have one puzzle piece. My puzzle piece is, okay, I know how the Akashic records work. Okay, that's all I got. I'm not going into, all this other stuff and whatever. That's not for me to go into. That's somebody else's job to figure out the next level of this stuff. But what I'm going to do is drill down on the level that I understand. And I'm just going to drill down on that. There's no need for me to worry about who's going to do the next piece. That's why I have everything on the internet. Like, it's not for me to worry about who's going to do the next piece. Let me just do my piece. Let me just do my piece. And I know that's, counterintuitive for a lot of the copy and paste gurus out there. That's the term crypto uses to talk about these people. That's counterintuitive for the copy and paste gurus out there, but that's exactly like what should happen and would happen if you understood that you are a piece of a larger matrix. I'm not the matrix. I'm a piece of a larger matrix. So let me do my piece to the best of my ability. And my piece is the calendar. And I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. Now, if I finish this piece, which doesn't seem possible, like it's so much knowledge in here. If I finish this piece and God wants to give me another piece to work on, to understand, to observe, that's fine. I'm okay with that too. But I'm not out here saying this is it. This will be everything you ever have to do. I happen to think this is a corner piece, but this is not the only piece. There's lots of pieces, and we all have to work together with our own specific range of knowledge to get things done. Because a lot of these people that are producing these works, they think they know everything. And I will tell you all day, every day, I don't know everything. There's no way I could possibly know everything. But if you talk to some of these people, they think they know everything. So I'm not allowing people like that into my energy. I'm not allowing people who think they know everything into my energy. That is not productive. It is not helpful, and it will not get us moving in the direction we need to move. So that's a FYI. If you think you got all the answers within you, you know how to decipher all the answers, you got all the answers, God bless you. Okay? I don't have all the answers. I don't profess to know all the answers. I don't profess to know anything. I know one thing. I know this calendar. And I know in general how it works. I don't even know all the specifics. I'm working on it though. And every day I use it, I get better at that. So that's all I have to say about it. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed this much longer than I wanted to talk. But it's my review and my reflection. So shalom, peace and blessings, and we'll see you in the next video.